Your ears do not deceive you. You have just entered the Cryptid Creator Corner, brought to you by your friends at Comic Book Yeti. So without further ado, let's get on to the interview.
Hello, and welcome to Comic Book Yeti's Cryptid Creator Corner. I'm one of your hosts, Jimmy Gasparo, and I'm so excited to once again, I just double-checked to make sure this is his fourth time on the podcast. He was here once in 2022, 2023, 2024, and we got him back early, 2025. But please welcome back to the podcast, Cullen Bunn. Cullen, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm going for that 5-time token. I'm assuming there's some sort of T-shirt
Yeah.
or a medal, something.
We're going to come up with something like a a token.
Yeah.
T-shirt would be a good idea. Like a hat. We'll figure it out.
All right, I like this.
Yeah. So we'll have to have you back. We don't have to wait till 2026. We can get you back on later in the year, and we'll knock it out. We'll knock it out this year. So
Pumped.
yeah, I mentioned it right before we started recording, but I think you're a tough creator to keep up with sometimes, because I feel like, and I don't know if it feels like this for you, you're actually doing it, but it does feel like you have quite, a few things coming out. Listeners, if you've listened to any of Cullen's episodes before, I've always mentioned his newsletter, which I think was Vicious Shivers, and now I think you call it Nightmare Fuel.
Yeah,
I think
changed
you're one
the
of the
title for some reason.
I think you have one of the best newsletters, like in terms of comic creators and the stuff you cover. You just do a really good job of talking about what's going on, stuff you have coming out, but also, a bit about the things that get you excited that you're playing. If
Well,
it's a
thank you.
board game, or stuff that you're reading, or stuff that you're into. So I think it's a fantastic newsletter. But like going through and preparing for this and trying to see what I had to catch up with, and I'm like, I can't do it all. I have to I have to pick and choose, so let me go back and reread Beyond Mortal, because I know like that connects to the Jumpscare world, and that the triple threat of terror that came out from Outer Shadows, which is Outland Entertainment's like horror imprint. I wanted to make sure I read those three things, because I felt like that was fairly recent. And then a couple other things that I read, like, just for me. I'm a big fan of Oni bringing back EC, and I think it was Cruel Universe #3. You had a story in. So yeah, there's
Yeah.
uh, plenty of things going on to cover, and I
Yes,
did
and
kind of want to
yes,
start.
it gets very difficult to keep it all straight. Especially, I'm a little exhausted and like from travel over the last few weeks. So it's even worse. Like as you were naming those, I was like, is that a book of mine? I don't know. Maybe. I was at Emerald City Comic Con this past weekend, and I had my badge said I was a panelist, and somebody I was just browsing around, and somebody says, "Hey, what panel are you on?" And my answer, it was immediate and it was honest, is I don't have a clue. I don't know what panel I'm on. I
Uh,
knew I was there to be on a panel. I just didn't know which one.
did somebody help you figure it out?
Yes. I was there.
Oh, good.
There was a person handling all that, so I knew I was going to get where I was supposed to be. But at that moment, there was no way I would have been able to explain it to anyone.
Oh, good. Did you have a good time at Emerald City Comic Con?
Yeah, I haven't gone to a lot of conventions in recent years. I really scaled back. And now it looks like this year I'm kind of ramping up. And so I had just been to Comics Pro in Los Angeles, which is like the comic book retailer event. And then
Right.
and then immediately I got home. I had a few days at home, and then I went to Emerald City, and now I'm home for about a week, and I'm going to Planet Comic Con in Kansas City next week. So it's but I always have a real good time.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I was jealously looking at your most recent newsletter talking about Emerald City at some of the places you went. Like the one barcade you went to looked awesome, and then the food at there's a restaurant out there that you talked about, a family friend. that looked incredible.
Oh, I forgot I even posted this. I don't know if I even posted any pictures of that family friend. That place was amazing. Yeah, I kind of I always plan out. Like there are certain things I want to do when I go to a convention after the convention. I always try to find a barcade in town, maybe more than one. I always try to find some weird, quirky bars or restaurants to go to. This time around, and when I was in LA, uh, writer artist Jeremy Hahn and I kind of explored both cities a little bit and went to some places together. Family Friend was his recommendation, and it was great.
Yeah, it looked I went on to the website afterwards because it sounded neat and the food looked amazing. So I was like, all right, well, if I ever make it out that way, it's on the list. But to kind of turn it back into comics, I wanted to talk about some of the things, in terms of the recent stuff. Um, One, you're involved in AWA announced the Ultimate Oz universe.
Yeah.
That they're that they are going to be putting out that you are a part of. Um, and so what can you tell me about, you know, what details are you able to give out so far about this Ultimate Oz universe? And is this really going to be like, I mean, Frank L. Baum wrote, I don't know, like
14,
13 or
14 books.
14,
And then
but
there
there's
were,
a lot more, right?
yeah, I
Because
think
like,
there's 40 maybe, something like that came out
okay,
total. But I'm sorry, I interrupted your question. Is it really going to
no, I
be?
just, yeah, like, is it going to encompass all of that? And what can you tell us about what AWA, what their plans are?
So they have some pretty uh, exciting plans for the world of Oz, and it's interesting. You said details. It is very detail oriented. In that, unlike I've written for Spider Man, Deadpool, the X-Men. And when I get one of those books, it's always been, here you go. Go write the X-Men. I'm like, all right, I'm on it. This book, I actually had like an Oz historian flew to my town and met with me for like 3 days to make sure I understood all the details of Oz. And the Oz historian that came and met with me is just one of like 5 people who are just the biggest experts on Oz in existence. And they've really taken this. They want it to be a very true adaptation of the Oz stories, but they also are filling in a lot of blanks in terms of things that happen between, that you may not have picked up in the book that just weren't covered in the book. And they're also doing some pretty we're doing some really exciting sort of updates to some of the characters, the designs of some of the characters. The legendary Mike Diodato Jr. is drawing the book. I can say this and you can find them online. There are updates to the way the Cowardly Lion looks. Tin Man gets a major overhaul in this series. And even with all those updates, it's very true to Oz. And it's probably the truest adaptation of the Oz books that has ever existed.
Wow. Well, I think a lot of people don't who might I haven't read a lot of the other Oz books, but I'm just a tiny bit familiar. I think a lot of folks who are maybe just familiar with like The Wizard of Oz and some of like the kid cartoon adaptations of some of the other stories, or were, horrified by the wheelies in Return to Oz.
They
I
were
don't know.
so
I think
awesome.
they were fantastic. I love TikTok. But I don't, not the app. I mean the character TikTok.
Right.
But
I knew
just
I knew what you meant.
right.
Some kids are probably, what does TikTok have to do with
Yeah,
Oz? I don't
right.
understand.
I don't think like the average person with some familiarity like understands like exactly how weird the Frank L. Baum Wizard of Oz books get.
Yeah, they get very strange. And the way we're kind of approaching this, Axel Alonso, the editor in chief at AWA, is kind of running point, and we're really approaching this. If you imagine like the Marvel universe, this is kind of the way it's going to be. This is like approaching the Oz universe as this new thing that's burgeoning, and we're going to be able to tell I mean, just endless stories within that framework. There are thousands of characters that were in the bomb books and were, in the continuations. Just there's so much information, so much story out there. So there's a
Yeah.
lot there to explore.
And is it? I mean, in terms of like, are there going to be other writers involved as well, or is it?
There will be some other writers involved. Despite what everyone thinks, I simply cannot handle that many books. So yeah, there will be other writers involved that I don't know when they'll be announced, but
Okay.
there'll be, and they're already in the works. There's already new material in the works in the Oz universe.
Okay. Because I had read something else you had said about it, I wanted to provide you an opportunity to do your Hungry Tiger impression.
Well, it was funny. I was in this panel introducing Oz, and I was like, man, this panel's getting pretty serious. I need to lighten it up a little bit. So someone asked who our favorite characters in Oz were, and I was like, well, let me do my Hungry Tiger. There's a character called Hungry Tiger, who's sort of a foil for the Cowardly Lion. They're in the same sort of. But Hungry Tiger likes to say, as I'm writing, the secret to my writing is I speak in voices. I may have said this on one of the other shows. As I'm writing, I speak in the voices of the characters.
Right.
And Hungry Tiger sounds, he's always talking about, give me a fat, succulent baby. So he's always looking for succulent babies to feast upon. So
That's fantastic. Well, I mean that's pretty exciting. I just love the world of Oz. I love how bizarre it can get. So I'm really excited to see.
it's there, believe me.
Yeah. So before we talk about some of the other comics, I did just want to mention, because I mentioned before Outland Entertainment, but you have written Quill and Codex, which is like a role playing game. But I think the gist of it, I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you were talking about, where I was reading that you had said, like, games that are really rule intensive, and you wanted to create create a system where players can kind of, pick it up pretty quickly. And so I was just, wanted to hear more about Quill
Yeah.
and Codex.
It's something that I started tinkering with a few years back. I started messing around with this role playing system. I love role playing games. I've played them for. I mean, I've been playing role playing games almost as long as I've been reading comics. I collect role playing games, and I wanted something that if I got together with like a group of 5 people, and maybe some of them have played games sometimes, and some of them have never played games. I wanted something that I could say, here we go, we're going to play this. And in 5 to 10 minutes, they would know everything they need to know to play, and we could dive in and go. Um, it has rules. It's not like a free for all, but the rules are very condensed, very focused. And I really wanted something that was designed around this idea of just getting together and telling stories together. And we released Quill and Codex. It's like a 45-page rule book, and it's got everything you need to play the game. It's got, character classes and monsters and magic items and all that. It's all in there. And what we decided to do with it for the base rules, we just released them for free, and they will always be free. You can download them at Outland Entertainment. You can download the Quill and Codex rules right now and have that game and ready to and it's ready to play. We're going to be releasing sort of a dungeon adventure for Quill and Codex that we're going to be doing like a level every 2 weeks. We'll post online, so that's going to be
Oh, wow.
free as well for people who want to play the game. And then we'll release some uh, additional materials for it. Maybe a book of monsters, a book of magic items, things like that. Those won't necessarily be free, but they will be pretty cheap, and you'll be able to build up, and play and add more enhancements to the game. It'll always be simple, but we can always enhance it. Uh, and some of the exciting things, Outland Entertainment has a lot of different properties they have kind of curated and created. We can do role playing settings in role playing books for those settings. I can't necessarily publish, role-playing games for most of my materials, like Six Gun, for instance. If I wanted to do, I can't really publish and sell like a Six Gun role-playing game that I did without, going through the licensing steps. But
Sure.
I can sure put one on my Patreon free to my patrons and that kind of stuff. So I'll be able to do Harrow County role-playing game material and
Oh,
put that on my
nice.
Patreon.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very well supported, and there's going to be a lot of available material for it.
Oh, that's cool. What was kind of like your inspiration in terms of like the world building for Quill and Codex? Is it like a D&D esque, or did you go like more of a horror direction?
No, it's this first one. So the main rulebook is very Dungeons and Dragons like. It's a fantasy world.
Okay.
And we use the artwork is by Nicholas Giacondino, and he did this amazing this series of fantasy art. So we incorporated that into it. And I thought a fantasy setting was easy to understand. It would be easy for a new reader or a new gamer to say, okay, I get it. This is it's a Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing. Now, the adventure modules that we're doing is called Damon Rot, and that's a little darker, a little more of a grim, dark fantasy adventure.
Oh, okay.
And we'll be able to, I've already started working on rules for like a horror version of Quill and Codex and things like that will layer in as time goes on. Because even though it's set up as a fantasy game, it's so simple. If someone said they wanted to play a modern day or a cyberpunk, they could easily adapt those rules into cyberpunk or a modern story before I even get around to putting that kind of material out. They can do it for
Right.
themselves too.
Oh, nice. No, I love that. You mentioned Harrow County, and actually, as we record this, just last week, I interviewed Shad Miller and Jay Cormier from Off the Page Games, and because we were talking about, my friend Dan has the Harrow County game, and we've played it and love it. But yeah, I'm a big board game fan as well, and an RPG, and so I'm excited to see, you know, how the Quill and Codex came out.
I'm just trying to do. I don't like to sit still, and I like to do different things, and I get excited about a role playing game for a little while. Last year. I wrote a supplement for the Marvel Universe role playing game. I wrote Deadpool role plays the Marvel Universe, and I had so much fun writing that. I just I just want to keep chasing that kind of
Right.
fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, and speaking of Deadpool, I think April 2nd of 2025 is another Deadpool. Oh, I'm gonna get the title right. Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe again.
No, this is Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe one last time.
Last time. That's right. Okay. So yeah,
Um,
out April 2nd, Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe one last time. So I mean, when you do
is your first
something like
question why? Tell me.
no, not it's not why. It's as a writer, do you when you because you have I think you're one of the most, and I've told you this before. I think you're one of the most prolific writers, like in comic books right now. That's why I said it's tough to keep up. You have a lot of stuff coming out, and so and you have everything is so you know different. When you kind of attack something like this, again or like one last time, is there ever like a struggle for what could I possibly have Deadpool do now to keep it fresh, or does something about that character let you really get in there and kind of write?
Well, I think Deadpool definitely facilitates that a little bit. But this was an interesting project just in general. Um, so I don't know, a few months back, Marvel released a series of Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe variant covers. So
Mhm.
all their books had different covers with Deadpool killing Captain America or Moon Knight or whoever. And Dalibor Talajic, who is the artist on the first two Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe series, messaged me and he said, "Did you see all these covers? Isn't that cool?" And I was like, "It is cool. Sounds like they're still interested in that property. Let's pitch him another book." and I immediately wrote an email saying that sounds like you're still interested in Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. Let's do another book. And I honestly didn't think I was going to get a reply. I thought it was going to be, dead air. But they replied pretty quick and were like, huh, yeah, let's do that. So then I had to come up with an idea. And I think what we came up with and what Dalibor and I are doing, and this is not hyperbole on my part. I'm throwing the gauntlet down. This is the most epic Deadpool story that has ever been written. Full stop.
Wow.
It is completely and it all comes from, we were trying to do something very different from the first two. In the first one, it was a certain story. The second one, I wanted to do something a little different. And we explored the idea of Deadpool killing all these characters in a different way. This one is a completely unique take on this idea. It goes in a completely different direction. And I think this may be the one where readers look, there are obviously some twisted folks out there who are rooting for Deadpool to kill the Marvel Universe in the previous incarnations. But this is the one where you should be rooting for Deadpool to kill the Marvel Universe.
Okay.
And it's been a lot of fun. It's Dalibor's just a delight to work with. I get more pages every day, and it looks gorgeous, and it's absolutely bonkers where we're going with this thing and what we're doing.
Is it? Did I see? Is it a 5-issue series?
It's a 5-issue series.
Nice.
And and this is it. I think it's a great series to put a bow on it, right? To just say, okay, Cullen is done with Deadpool killing Marvel universes until Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe one last time again. Because frankly, I'll do it. I don't care. Who's going to stop me? Only Marvel can stop me, and they don't want to yet. So
yeah, not yet. Well, that's great. So April 2nd, that'll be out. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so, now I guess let's talk about Jumpscare. Jumpscare, first issue came out February 26th, 2025.
It is in stores now.
Yeah, issue 2 will be out, I think, April 9th.
That sounds right.
Yeah, so it's through Dark Horse, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, and so it's kind of set in the Beyond Mortal world. I think I backed the first Kickstarter for that, and I read, what was the first one, like 60 pages?
The first Kickstarter was 60 pages, and then we did a trade paperback OGN for the entire thing. It's like 120 something page graphic novel that's available from Dark Horse right now. So Beyond Mortal, I've always described as sort of the Justice League versus the Cthulhu mythos. I mean, it's not that, obviously. These are my own mythos and my own superheroes. But it's the superhero world that's in the embrace of this horrific problem. That's what Beyond Mortal's about.
Right.
And
if listeners, if you haven't read it, I'll give my own plug for it. It's fantastic. All of the superheroes feel like they're they feel kind of familiar if you've grown up and read superhero comics. They all are kind of like a different, unique take. I think The Secret's my favorite. But
artist Danny Luckert would agree with you. The Secret's his favorite as well.
Yeah. And so Danny Luckert is on Beyond Mortal, which you've worked with Danny on some other comics before. Was Danny on Lucky Devils?
No, Danny did Regression. We did Regression together. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the artwork's fantastic. It's a really wonderful. It's really great, and it's But in any event, so this Jumpscare is set in this same world,
right? And the important thing to know about Jumpscare, it is set in the Beyond Mortal universe, but you don't need to read Beyond Mortal to enjoy Jumpscare. It stands on its own. It's like the old days when you could read Avengers and Spider-Man and never the two necessarily need to meet. They're in the same world, and you can get things out of both of them if you read both, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
Jumpscare is easily the most fun I've had working on a comic just years. It's
right.
Jumpscare is sort of a solo superhero, street level vigilante in this city, this Empire City. And she was just a everyday average girl. She liked horror movies in a big way. She was like a big horror movie fan. She didn't feel like she fit in with her family, but she always found comfort in horror movies. And one day she's leaving the movie theater after watching some gross, disgusting movie. And she wanders into an alley, as you do after you go to a movie. And then in that alley, she encounters this cosmic thing. And it opens her eyes, it breaks her mind, and from that she walks away with a number of bizarre superpowers. She's very strong. She's very fast. She can take a hit like nobody's business. She can teleport anywhere that someone's not looking. So she can pop up behind you as long as no one's looking at that spot. She can teleport there. But her most unique power is that she can conjure into existence any weapon from any horror movie she's seen. And she's just seen a ton of horror movies. So with that ability, she decides to fight evil and become this vigilante. And she somehow becomes the most popular superhero in the world. Everybody loves her. And she just is this gore-soaked superhero out there fighting monsters and crime in Empire City. And it's very, if you're a horror movie fan, there's a lot to love. If you're a superhero fan, there's a lot to love. She is sort of She's sort of our Harley Quinn. She's sort of our Deadpool. Maybe a little bit of Tank Girl thrown in the DNA, but then just
Oh, nice.
a lot of horror movie references and love.
So Beyond Mortal, it is really like you said, it's this kind of a great combination of these two things, like the Justice League and the Cthulhu mythos. But I think Beyond Mortal works so well because it's played kind of like, like right down the middle. They're superheroes. This is end of the world level old god stuff. Like,
Right.
there's definite stakes. I thought it was fun with Jumpscare that you're kind of really playing into the horror, like comedy elements, of it all. Like if Beyond Mortal was your like Evil Dead, this is
Right.
your Evil Dead 2, maybe into Army of Darkness,
Right.
right? Is that
That's
fair?
a perfect example. I like that. Yeah. Horror horror fiction has so many different flavors, so many different genres that you can play with. So yeah, this is absolutely a horror comedy. Jumpscare narrates the whole thing. I think she's very quirky. I think she's very relatable. Um, what I thought was really something I didn't expect. Um, is Jumpscare's, civilian name is Allie. And I've been seeing all these reviews pop up and people commenting on it, and they never say, I like Jumpscare because of this. They're all these people are saying, I really relate to Allie because of this. I'm like, oh, so they're picking up on her humanity. I mean, they don't care that
Yeah.
she's lopping heads off and, crawling through the guts of giant monsters. And I like that she seems so relatable to people. And that's really great for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure as the series goes on, we're going to continue to get a lot of like, horror movie references and I mean, what just like a fun power you can conjure any horror movie, weapon. That's kind of wild.
So one of the things, like the original art that when I pitched this idea to Danny, he immediately, like, it felt like he did it instantly, like he somehow willed the art into existence, because I think I sent him an email and it felt like it popped right back with, hey, what about this? And here, some of his original concept art that we've never really revealed has Jumpscare wearing like Freddy's glove, and there's Ash's chainsaw next to her, and she's got Jason's machete. Um,
Right.
and obviously we can't, editorials like, hold up, we don't know if that's legal or not to put these, I mean,
Right.
there are tons of real horror movie references throughout the book, but
Yeah.
one of the things I had to do, and it was actually a lot of fun, is I created this entire filmography that she's pulling weapons from. So every time she creates a weapon, this little movie ticket appears on the panel, and it says what the weapon is and what year the movie came out and what the movie's title is. So I have all these different, I have to keep track of it now. All these strange movies I'm listing that exist in her world alongside all of our favorite horror movies.
Right. I mean, like, I imagine that is part of the fun of it, but also, having to constantly come up with the names of movies and different types of weapons can be a little like, oh, what did I do to myself?
It's fine. I love it. I mean, I'm just really thinking about the movies I liked when I
Yeah.
was, and she does conjure. I mean, her conjurations get a little, definitely get crazy as the crazier as the series goes on.
As it goes on. Yeah. What are some of your, favorite horror movies that you draw from? Like, what's the
Oh,
one that you think people don't talk about enough that you were always a big fan of? Is there something that comes to mind?
don't talk about enough. Well, I don't, I love the Phantasm franchise. I really love the
Oh, okay.
Phantasm movies. Uh, my favorite of the bunch is Phantasm 2, which I think is just a near pitch perfect movie. Uh, and so I love those. I love, I don't feel like Evil Dead kind of overshadows it a little bit in the world of horror fandom. Everyone knows, the Tall Man and Reggie Bannister and the Sentinel orbs that suck out brains, but I don't know that outside of it, people may not realize Phantasm is such a bizarre mind trip of a horror movie.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen that in years. I just remember the ball,
Yeah, there's
the
five
orb.
of them, five Phantasms.
Are there really?
Yeah,
That's the thing about horror movies. They get going, they can just
that's right.
they
Yeah.
do just they do have a tendency to just to crank them out. Speaking of naming things and naming movies, I'm always kind of fascinated with like your naming conventions for things. And I was
Okay.
curious.
Let, let's hear this one.
Well, not like the names of your, not like the names of your series but I was thinking in particular, like, and maybe it just lends itself, something like Autumn Kingdom, the series that you do with Christopher Mitten. Um, but when you're talking about the two sisters, like from the dad's books, and like the name of the sword, and I think that I was also reading something else, and I was just kind of like, I feel like you name places and things, especially when you write stories not based in the real world, that it has like a, I don't know, a naming convention to it that I feel is from like that people aren't quite doing anymore, and you do it so well. It's almost like you like went back to like you have a treasure trove of like pulp novels or magazines from like the 70s, and you're like, I need the name of a sword, and you're like flipping through Hexiles. You really do it. Hexiles,
Oh,
you went to town on Hexiles.
I named all the spells, all their powers and all their spells in Hexiles, and I do have a dusty collection of pulps and old books, and it's stuck up here. And
Okay.
no, I think there are some people out there who are really good at it, and I've always admired people who could just name stuff. And for me, I want every name of things like that. I want it to have some sort of, I don't ha- it's hard to explain. I want it to have a resonance that makes you feel like it's referring to something bigger. And sometimes it is, sometimes I have some plan for it. A lot of times I just want to come up with a cool name that sounds like I have a plan for it. And then maybe I'll come up with a plan later. But yeah, I'd forgotten Hexiles is one, but I can't name those power names right now off the top of my head. But I really remember like really working what can this be called that it sounds infernal and have a big history and have like,
Yeah.
it's like I know one's called the Damnation Roots, but it's the Damnation Roots of something, and it's yeah. I love naming stuff. I just love it. But going back to what I said earlier, I also forget what I've named, and so sometimes I have to go back and I have to reread the comics. Oh, oh yeah, I named it this, and I have to
Yeah.
go back and rework that in. I should keep better notes, but even my notes would be a mess because I don't want to I don't ever want to put like my concepts into like an Excel spreadsheet or something that I can sort, because that feels like it would just take the magic away for me.
Yeah, I get that. But I just really like how you go about. I like whatever the reason. If it's because you have something planned or you just want it to seem like it has some type of impact. It's just something that I notice and pick up on, and I love it. But speaking of Hexiles, which is with Mad Cave, you're working with artist Joe Picardo.
Mhm.
Um, uh, I think I think issue I think 4 issues are out now.
And the 5th one's right around the bend. Yeah. I think
Okay.
it any minute now, the 5th one should be dropping.
Okay. So, if listeners have not picked up Hexiles, well, one, listeners who listen to the podcast know I'm a huge Mad Cave fan, so that's number one. But number two, Hexiles is so good. I'm not all caught up yet. I have the 4 issues that have come out. I've read the first 2 of them. Um, it- Joe Picardo's art is so creepy. It is what I mean, I was expecting something a, a little gory, but it is gross. It is
Well, the
gross at
2nd issue is
times
really
and
gross. Well,
oh,
the
it
2nd
is
issue is really
so
gross.
gross. It's so gross.
You
Um,
know,
in
it's
in such a wonderful, like, in such a wonderful way. Like, I thought it was intense, like, suspenseful, unbelievably creepy and dark. I loved his style of art. It just felt like it was absolutely perfect for it. I kinda love how it just, like, weirdly got, like, right into it with, it's for listeners, if you don't know, that the story is it opens on a funeral. There's these people that are there at the funeral. It turns out they've all gotten like an anonymous call to say your dad's dead. None of them really knew their dad. Turns out not a great guy, and
the
has done
worst.
some things.
The
Yeah, the
worst.
worst. He's done some things, and now they all kind of have these, let's say, demon powers, and they are supposed to have like a bigger destiny, and they're not psyched about it, and bad consequences flow. um just grabbed me right away, and I just fantastic, absolutely love it.
Yeah, and you're right. Joe's art is kind of perfect for that series, and the feel of it, and yeah, it's really there are some definite grotesque moments in that book. Uh, it's one of the first books, I think, that for various reasons certain issues have like the publisher put trigger warnings on them, like, hey,
Oh,
this
really?
issue may be upsetting. Just be careful. Just be aware. This one might
Yeah.
upset you a little bit. So
Was it fun doing a book like that that wasn't, like a superhero or type of book where you had like a bigger cast of characters to play with? Or
yeah,
was that trickier?
no, it's freeing. It's awesome. I feel like it sets up bigger things. There's a lot more we could do with it. Uh, uh it's I love being able to just write the kind of story I want to write.
Yeah.
And some people, the dad in Hexiles is named Jameson Creel, and some people have written to me saying, well, he's sort of John Constantine but worse. And I'm like, yeah. And no, DC would never let me do with John Constantine what I'm doing in Hexiles. So
No.
it
Oh,
it's
absolutely not.
yeah, so it's very freeing from that
Yeah.
perspective.
I
Yeah.
don't even know if they'd let you do that on a Black Label book.
No, I don't think so. I think this is there's some real darkness in this book. But
Absolutely.
what's interesting about it is there's real darkness, but some of the character, it's the main cast, the Hexiles, some of them are kind of fun and they're a little, they've got sort of a cool attitude. Some of them are a little more mopey or, it's like a little dysfunctional family trying to figure their way through this nightmare.
Yeah, Argyle's a real mess, but I like him because of that.
Yeah, Argyle is a disaster. I think they're all a little messed up.
That's
I
true.
mean, I might as well just say that. They're all messed up, but who isn't?
They all have some
So,
issues. True. Absolutely true. I mean, Jameson Creel, though, again, speaking of names, fantastic names. And this is a perfect segue because another fantastic name, Hudson Tremaine, the
yes.
character in Arcana Royale, which is, I think that's also a Dark Horse book. And that issue 1 is going to be out April 23rd um,
Yeah.
of this year. So, yeah, again, so tell me about what trouble Hudson Tremaine gets into. This is kind of based in the world of gambling, and you're working with Zamudio.
Yeah, AC Zamudio. I've worked with her before on a few different projects and she's just awesome. Um you want to talk about a book where I had to come up with a lot of names, get ready.
Okay.
um so yeah, Arcana Royale is essentially, it's sort of like Rounders or any kind of gambling poker type story, where people are going in or Casino Royale where, they're playing this game for high stakes. And they're in the middle of the World Series of poker in a way, except the game isn't poker and it's played with this mystical set of tarot cards that we created for the book. And every game has ramifications in the real world. And the winner of this tournament gets to control fate in some way. They get real power, or they get a real prize. They can control fate. Hudson Tremaine is she's just a gambler. She's been thrown out of every casino in Vegas. And this group of mortals comes to her and say, "Look, we know this game exists. Mortals never get a shot at controlling fate. We want you to win this game for us so we can control fate." So she enters this tournament and she plays with the weirdest groups of people. The tournament's in places like meatpacking plants and cemeteries. It's played in different bizarre places. And every time a card is played, it has some different ramifications in the world around them. So, and there's so many bizarre characters, and AC just drew them so well. And I really like Hudson. She's a fun, sort of no nonsense, take no guff kind of gambler character who's definitely in over her head. She's definitely not used to playing cards with magicians and giant sock monkeys and tentacular creatures and witches. She's not used to this, but that's where she is.
Yeah, I really like the cover that I've seen that's on previews with the goat man in the
That's
very nice suit.
Valerio. Yeah, his
with
name
the
is
ascot.
Valerio. He's one of the dealers of the Arcanos Mysterios is the name of the card game.
Did you have to do any like gambling research? Like, did you look into the world of high stakes poker and tournament or underground gambling for this? Was that a world you were already familiar with?
I did a little research. My dad was really into all that when I was a kid. So I drew a lot of
Yeah.
that from my dad. Was really he was a real gambler. And also the good news, and I never picked up that he was good at it. I was always terrible at cards. We never picked those skills up. But the good news is the game is completely fictional. This game they're playing,
Right.
it's not played like poker. It has some similarities, things that you'll recognize as you see them play. Oh, I know that they're doing something like poker here, but when they're raising, years of life off of your life or something, or things like that. There
Right.
are different components to the game. And then, like I said, I listed, and I did not expect AC to do this. I listed all of these cards, a major arcana, and then all the suits of the different all the different suits. And AC went and just drew them all. She basically created a tarot deck. Um,
Oh,
so who
wow.
knows what we'll do with that? So
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's pretty cool. I love that. And so yeah, April 23rd, that'll be out from Dark Horse. And I'm trying to think of I'm looking at to see my list. Oh, you're also doing an issue of I think you have a story in Hello Darkness, number 9.
Oh, I do. That's probably coming out pretty soon. Yeah, it's sort of it's Boom's horror anthology comic, and yeah, I have
Yep.
a gross little story in that.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. It was a lot of I love those anthologies. I love those short horror stories. So it was a lot of
Yep.
fun. Those can be difficult. Those can be tough to write. Uh, getting
Yeah,
in
that'll
and
be
out of that kind of story and making it feel complete is tough sometimes.
it looks like the story you have in that'll be out March 26th. Yeah, I mean, like, that can be quite a challenge when you only have a certain number of pages, I'm sure, and you're limited to try and, you know, introduce your characters, get to what it is you're talking about, what did you think, I mentioned it earlier, but in terms of, the story you had in Cruel Universe, like, was that something that came to you pretty quick and like, "Oh, I have something that'll be perfect within the confines of that?"
So when Oni came to me and asked about doing that, and I sent him, I think, 3 or 4 ideas, like a couple of sentence ideas, and those came pretty quick.
Right.
And then the one they picked, they were like, "Oh yeah, this is the one we think we should go with." Then I think that story is only 4 or 5 pages long. It feels really short when I think about it. Maybe it's longer, but it felt shorter. I I was like, "Oh no, I have to now." I wrote 2 sentences. 2 sentences are easy. Uh, Now I have to figure out how to make that story fit in the confines of 5 pages. It could have easily been its own limited series. It could have been a much bigger story. So that's always the challenge. I think it turned out great. I think the art on it's great. Um, I like the way it looked, and I think it played fine. It just
Yeah.
that one I kind of sweated over a little bit, just trying to figure out if I could make it work.
What what was your, like, pitch for it? What was your, like, 2-sentence idea that you had to turn into it? Do you remember?
So it probably read something like, and it's an idea I've kind of tinkered with in the past, but it could probably read something. I and I don't even remember what we called the story in Cruel Universe now. But I think I said something like, in this world, everyone has a little AI driven morality compass. And when you do
Right.
something wrong, you get a little jolt. But what if those compasses turned against us? And that was kind of the idea. So I mean, obviously it's me exploring how do what if AI gets so bad that it starts judging us for our decision making, and how far does that go? So,
Right.
because I don't want to get shocked by a computer for making bad decisions, because that's a all day, every hour, every minute kind of situation for me.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't sound like it would be a lot of fun. But yeah, I was just looking up the you called the story Behave.
Oh, Behave, yeah, that's right. That was not the original title. I can't
Oh,
remember what the
okay.
original title was. Behave was a suggestion from editorial.
Okay. Yeah, I really liked it. I liked all the stories in the one that you're in Cruel Universe number 3. They're all really good. I think Zach Thompson wrote one that's in there, and but yeah, They
it's a
are
super, it's a
they
super
are a
cool
lot of fun.
project.
I love the anthologies. I love that they're doing the EC. That they're doing that. I keep
Yeah, I
wanting
do
to say
too.
Tales from the Abyss. I think it's Epitaphs from the
Epitaphs,
Abyss.
yeah.
Yeah.
The covers of those magazines are just great. I mean, I love the cover art on every issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. They're awesome. So yeah, Cullen, I mean, I think we did it. I think we
We did
covered
it.
it.
We'll
I,
realize we forgot something important afterwards, but that's always for the fifth visit.
yes, the fifth visit we'll cover. I'm going to go through my list. I wrote a list to make sure I covered all the stuff that I wanted to talk about. I recently read. I didn't get a chance. I recently read Monsters Are My Business. I really like that. So I'll mention that as well. If listeners haven't read Monsters Are My Business, I thought that was really cool. I really like the little koala who he had
A
that
chainsaw,
flamethrower at one point.
chainsaw wielding koala.
Chainsaw. Yes, yeah. But at one point he had a flamethrower, which I
He does
also
have a
like.
flamethrower. He's a very mean little
Um,
koala.
yeah, and I think Boom Studios recently put out like the complete collection of Bone Parish. Um,
Yeah, uh, I guess I didn't realize this. So the book just came out, I think last
yeah,
week.
March 5th.
Yeah, and it's part of this initiative. Boom, to celebrate their anniversary, is releasing a number of books in these complete collection editions. So it's a paperback. It's 12 issues of content. I haven't seen my contributor copies. I haven't seen them yet, but I think it's only $20. I mean, it's a bargain
Oh
for
yeah.
12 issues of content.
And Bone Parish is awesome too. I
Thank
mean,
you.
that is a fantastic story from beginning to end.
Thank you.
So yeah, listeners, perfect opportunity if you've not read Bone Parish to contact your local shop and pick it up. But definitely check out Jumpscare. You don't have to read Beyond Mortal to get into Jumpscare, but if you want, I'm sure you can find Beyond Mortal. It's fantastic. And yeah, Arcana Royale and Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe one last time.
There we go.
All right. All right. Well, Cullen, thank you again for coming on the podcast. As always, shout out to my brother Bobby, the Cryptid Creator Corner's #1 most dedicated fan. Bobby listens to all my episodes. He's also a huge Cullen Bunn fan. I always shout out
Smart
Bobby
guy,
every
that
episode.
Bobby. Smart
He's
guy.
very smart. Very smart. But all right, listeners, thank you very much for listening. Find me on Blue Sky or TikTok. Let me know what it is you're reading, especially if you're reading Cullen's work. Let's talk about some of your favorite Cullen Bunn comics. And yeah, I really appreciate it. And I will see you next time.
Thanks.
Good night.